find this intro music mesmerizing and intriguing? There's a new kind of chord at work that we have yet to discuss. So, here we go. This is Music Student 101. Your hosts, Jeremy Burns and Matthew Scott Phillips.
It is a beautiful day here in Birmingham, Alabama.
Beautiful, gorgeous day.
Which is kind of rare, it seems. We've been having a lot of rain and
It's
crappy
been
weather.
deluging for a week now.
I know, man. I can't seem to dry off fast enough. Hey, if you found the intro music, by the way, to be mesmerizing or intriguing, it might have something to do with a special chord that I used.
Oh yeah, a couple of three special chords.
Yeah, actually. If anyone recognizes it, we're going to talk more about it later on.
Yeah, if you recognize it, I am seriously impressed.
I know, I barely recognize it, and I wrote it. What's been going on, Matt? I had the pleasure to see the world premiere of your new composition.
You did indeed, and thank you so much for coming out.
Tell us about it.
Well, it was a piece called Sicilia. It is sort of a musical depiction of the immigration of Sicilians from their native island of Sicily to the Americas, and their wanting during their travels to sort of hold on to something from their past and from their origin, which I wrote for trumpet and clarinet and piano, and was performed by the UAB Chamber Trio just earlier this week.
Was that inspired by Fran by any chance, your Sicilian girlfriend who makes really good Sicilian dishes?
All sorts of stuff get tumbling around in the old brain. Obviously, I think it was, yeah, so.
Yeah, got the chicken puttanesca on the brain at all times. She's got right about it. That's something she brought from the old country, her grandparents.
Her grandparents' recipes, yeah, absolutely.
So, pretty cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Man, so what's going on with me? Okay, so tomorrow I start an 8-week feature that's going to be in town shooting.
Wow.
And I'm a little nervous about it, mainly because 8 weeks is a long time to do 12-hour days, 6 days a week.
Yeah, no kidding.
And I'm worried, I'm confident that we've done this before and we can still pull off our bi-monthly release.
Yeah.
Or twice a month release.
Yeah. We're going to do our absolute best.
Yes, but bear with us, ladies and gentlemen, because it's gonna be it's going to be
tough. Yeah. So those are 60-hour weeks.
Yeah. 12-hour days, 72-hour weeks.
Ooh,
6 12-hour days.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. But we're dedicated to getting our podcast, and we'll do our absolute best. If Jeremy has to miss one or two because he's asleep, we promise we'll pick back up with a vengeance.
We'll have an episode where it's just like an hour and a half of me snoring. The big digression.
Yeah.
Y'all can
we'll have an episode where, Jeremy's over here asleep, so I'm just going to play some...
Just mess around.
Some chords. This sounds neat. Or what?
I bet an augmented chord will wake me right up.
Would it? I don't know.
Maybe. We're going to find out.
We're definitely going to find out.
Oh, before we move on, I also saw where our friend Chris Knudsen is on the call sheet as an electrician. So
I bet he is, yeah.
The good news is I'll get to spend some time with that fine gentleman who we did an episode 51.
Talking about stage production and management and things.
How he used his music tech education to get into all that stuff.
Right, yeah.
In other news, I believe I saw where he was engaged.
He is engaged now, yeah.
So congratulations
to Chris.
Yeah, way to go, man. Okay, now Matt.
Yes.
In other news, we have some good news and bad news, Matt.
Oh, man. Okay, well, give me the bad news first.
Give you the bad news and then put a little...
make me feel better on the way out.
The bad news is, Matt, we are being bullied.
Bullied?
Yes, Music Student 101 is being bullied.
Bullied?
We have a bully.
Oh, man. Oh, no.
The good news is, it's in the form of a joke.
Well, that's much better.
Which is always good. Now, you remember last episode we brought up our friend Jay, the guitar player.
Yes.
With all the great bass player jokes.
No.
You remember how we said bass player jokes sting a little more coming from guitar players?
Yeah, but we kind of like it better for that reason.
Okay, well, here it is. You ready for it?
Yep.
Is everybody ready?
Yeah.
What do you do if you suck at playing bass?
I don't know.
Start a music theory podcast. Jay, we're going to let it slide this time. You got about 2 weeks to enjoy this. We're going to come back at you in the next episode, maybe one after that. It's going to be a good one.
Well, just for that, I'm going to talk about German augmented 6 chords today.
That will
so take that, Jay.
That will be your punishment.
Yeah, this is your repentance for that off-color joke. You're going to have to hear about the German augmented 6 chord.
We're sorry that the rest of you listeners have to suffer at the doings of Jay. The guitar player.
Hey, blame Jay. You know,
Blame
Jay brought this on all of you. So yeah, it's like that scene in Platoon.
Well, I will say to Jay, and to credit you, that's an original joke. That is an original.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Kind of immortalized in a bass player joke.
Yeah, that's kind of an honor, isn't it? Nice try.
I've heard, what do you do if you suck at guitar? You play bass.
Yes.
Now there's the new one, if you suck at play bass.
There's a whole other level.
Yeah, start a theory podcast. Okay.
Gosh. Well, thanks for that, Jay. That was actually pretty damn good.
Yeah.
That was really good.
You gotta admire the creativity.
Totally. And our listeners, I'm learning more and more. Our listeners are a very creative bunch.
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
Other good news, we finally got 300 likes on Facebook.
Woohoo! That's a milestone.
Yeah, and a worldwide audience, I'm never really satisfied. In a worldwide audience, that doesn't seem like a whole lot, you know?
Yeah. Still, it's more than we had when we started.
It is, and
when we started, it was like our 2 girlfriends and like one other person.
Yeah, right.
You know, and now it's
and ourselves.
Yeah.
But that's kind of cool. I got on the site and there was already a couple of over 300. So it could have been Jessica Brophy, it could have been Phil Gemmell, Andreas Vasquez, Peter J. Casey. One of those.
All recent additions.
Recent additions broke the 300 member number. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
We also broke over 150,000 downloads.
Oh, wow.
So people are listening.
Nice.
And that's pretty cool.
150,000.
Yes, sir.
That's just incredible. That number almost even makes no sense to me.
And the news keeps getting better and better because we have a new review.
Yay, new review. Yeah. So this is from Joe2879 from the UK. 5 stars. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And Joe says, if you want to learn music theory, if you're learning music theory, or if you've learned and forgotten music theory, look no further because this is the only podcast you will ever need. Only podcast you will ever need.
Ever. Only.
Ever. This is honestly the most insightful, perspicuous, and witty podcast I've ever had the joy of listening to. Matt and Jeremy are fantastic hosts, and they explore every topic in a comprehensive and engaging manner. I would just like to take this opportunity to thank both Jeremy and Matt for your remarkable effort and dedication to providing such wonderful content. All the best, Joe.
Hey, thank you, Joe.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Joe. This is a real labor of love for us. This is what we do. Yeah, and we're glad that you're getting something good out of it.
Now, Matt, you know I love big words.
Oh yeah.
And I think perspicuous is maybe in relation to perspicacity.
Perspicacity.
Which I think actually means the ability to clearly express concepts and ideas.
Very nice.
So that's a compliment.
Very nice. Yeah.
My dad always had a really good vocabulary, and I always got a kick out of that because, you know, he worked on the railroads, kind of blue collar, you know,
right. Yeah.
middle class kind of guy.
Yep.
And at the house, he would say things like, Jeremy, you seem to be expressing some frustrations. Has your brother been instigating you? And then I'd hear him closing conversations with his work buddies saying things like weird southernisms like, much obliged.
Did I ever tell you my favorite sentence from my dissertation?
What's that?
The favorite sentence that I wrote in my dissertation is, the verisimilitude of this assertion is incontrovertible. Mm-hmm.
Well, I can't argue with that.
I worked the word verisimilitude into my dissertation, and it was definitely necessary. Yes, it was necessary.
I have never worked that word into anything, but I'm going to.
It is the quality of appearing to be true.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds right. Yeah. Love it. Let us move on. We have more good news. We have a Patreon patron.
Indeed.
A new Patreon patron named Ray Parker from Alberta, Canada.
Thank you, Ray.
I call him Doe Ray Parker. Because everyone's got to have a nickname.
All right.
Ray says, I've been an avid listener since the early episodes, and thank you for really helping my music theory brain engage. That theory brain, we love it.
Yeah, man.
The theory knowledge I've gained listening to the podcast has made a world of difference to my guitar playing. I have not had any professional lessons in well over 20 years and have stagnated badly to the same handful of song intros. Happens to the best of us.
Mm-hmm.
You asked in episode 60 if the listeners had any suggestions for future output. I have been entertaining doing some songwriting and composing since listening, but I find it hard to just sit down and organize a million ideas. Well, that's true.
Don't we all?
Mm-hmm. Maybe at the end of each podcast, maybe offer a theme or short song for listeners to use, topical to the episode. I think it would help to cement some knowledge if we had a practicum to work on after listening, or maybe that's just me. On another note, first
of all, we're going to do that.
Yeah, okay, you're into it.
Yes.
I can dig it, man. It's one thing that I'm afraid I'll not remember to do at the end of every episode.
Right.
But just like the recap, I can make a little note because it is a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
And we can definitely do it at the end of this episode.
Definitely do it at the end of this episode. And also, the intro and outro for our podcasts, most often written by our very own perspicuous Jeremy Burns. He's very good at hiding little Easter eggs pertaining to the subject of the podcast in the intro music. Yeah, so also definitely sort of listen back to those and see if you can spot what we're doing. But we can also in an overt way have little examples at the end of episodes, especially the more complicated theory ones. That's not an unreasonable request, I think.
Right. So during this episode, we'll be thinking about that.
We'll be thinking about that. Yeah.
And another note, this was a little more an older email. More recently, Ray says, I've taken a step sideways into 4-string cigar box guitar. Working in an open G tuning is making me use basic theory a lot more.
I bet. As
it interrupts my decades of old pattern awareness of the guitar fretboard, and being a bit sloppy suits the cigar box style. So that's actually kind of cool. That's a good, if you want to, that's a very good point.
Yeah, well, it's breaking him out of routines, because I think a lot of us probably experience this. You get used to practicing the same scales, practicing the same chords, practicing the same little licks, and you really do stop thinking about those licks as musical building blocks, or stop thinking about what's going on in them musically. I mean, even I do this. I have little pieces I've written on guitar that are decades old now, and even I will have to stop in the middle of playing them and go, now what was this chord again? Because my fingers have learned it, and my brain has sort of discarded the information.
Yeah.
But that that's good if you're a performer. That's great. You want your fingers to know it so you don't have to.
That's
right?
one of the main goals.
Yeah. But when trying to sort of stretch yourself concept-wise, as a theory student does. It's an interesting idea to sort of say, well, let's get on a completely different instrument, that I'm less comfortable on.
Yes.
Can't play all those old routine scales and licks or whatever, and now I have to actually think about what I'm doing.
Yes.
It's a good idea.
Closest thing I came to that was when I went from playing mainly bass and guitar to a mandolin-based instrument, which flips the four bass strings, flips them completely the opposite.
Right, G-D-A-E. So they're tuned in fifths instead of fourths.
So that was a big thing for me. The next challenge in my regard would probably be to pick up a E-flat or B-flat horn or woodwind, brass or woodwind instrument,
Oh, gosh, yeah.
That would be totally out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, I can't imagine doing that.
So good on you, Ray Parker, for doing that.
Indeed, good job, yeah.
And
I couldn't imagine picking up a cigar box guitar either.
They're amazing little things, and they sound kind of cool.
They do sound very cool, yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, Ray helped us out on patreon.com/musicstudent101.
Thank you, Ray.
You can be like Ray and do the same.
Indeed.
And get cool little things, little nuggets of information, and see cool videos.
And little cool videos, little little private lesson type 15-minute podcast episodes from us. And
we're going to get on one of those right after this episode.
Indeed.
In fact. So look out for that. Okay, let's move on, shall we?
Indeed, let's move on.
And finally, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this episode, we have Gleb Kondratiev gave us a PayPal donation.
Very nice. Thank you, Gleb.
Tell us about Gleb, Matt.
Okay, so Gleb writes, "My name is Gleb. Weird because I'm Russian." Mm-hmm. I'm sure if we were in Russia, my name would be weird.
Yes, Matthew.
Yeah. But anyway, he says, "My name is Gleb, and I'm a 19-year-old who's been listening to you guys' podcast on and off for about a year while working at my miserable job, the post office." I actually give a lecture about people in Ghana working at the post office and using music to pass the hours.
Yeah.
And in the 50s, somebody just walked in and recorded them doing that. And it's actually kind of incredible what they're doing.
Interesting.
But I digress.
Oh, yeah. Good one, though.
I'm still in early 2018 on your podcast where I just started listening to episode 45, where you speak about non-chord tones for the first time. We remember that fondly.
Yes, we do.
Hopefully, though, I'll catch up pretty soon. I just wanted to say thanks for making such a wonderful podcast. I started playing guitar self-taught a year ago after living 18 years with next to no musical talent except for a keyboard I had at one point in time. You guys have been a wonderful source of music theory information, and while I can't say I necessarily understand or remember all the information you've been sharing on my first listen, it does eventually click for me as I expose myself more and more to music. Well, that's kind of the idea.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to click the first time. It's a practice thing.
Especially only 1 year into really getting into it.
Yeah.
Digging deep.
We go pretty fast for...
I know. So we're sorry, Gleb.
So, having been caught in the mental abyss of depression for years, I didn't ever think I'd be happy with my life. I'm still not, but music theory, learning my instrument, and the dream of making an album when I feel musically adept enough have all at least made my mind think about something else instead of self-hate. And for that, I thank you. This is my last week at the post office as I'm about to quit to join the military, and I just purchased a Yamaha P.125 keyboard so I could waste money and have another instrument to play on. Thank you guys so much for making your podcast. It's really helped me put my mind to something greater than myself. I'm still working on my first song, and once I figure out how to get rid of my writer's block, I've got the melody and I just don't know what words to use. I hope to make something that I'm proud of. I'll send you guys a copy. Well, thank you very much, Gleb. And yes, definitely do send us a copy, and thank you for your honesty. I think we all feel that music is something more than just a diversion.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, we could all go be watching movies or playing video games if we were just killing time. I think we've all sort of experienced that feeling that music is lifting us out of dark places.
Yeah.
And giving to our lives a greater sense of meaning than it would have otherwise. Yeah, that's why we do it. That's why we work so hard at it. That's why we think about it so much. Is because it has this quality of doing that. So you're not alone.
You're not alone, Gleb. I've been thinking about Gleb a lot lately because we released that episode of The Blues Part 1.
Right.
The last episode we released. You had a great quote at the end of that, Matt. You said that the people from Africa, were using music to solve the wounds of their social situation.
Yeah.
And so they used it as a very medicinal agent,
Indeed, yeah. And this is one of the greatest purposes to which music can be put.
Yeah.
To solve the wounds that life inflicts on you.
Yeah. So Gleb, we're really impressed with your ability to recognize that and to use it to better yourself. And depression is a beast, but please don't be too hard on yourself. You're more beautiful than you realize.
And stay strong. Stay
strong.
Playing. Keep at it.
Send us updates. Let us know what's going on, buddy.
Absolutely.
All right, man.
All right.
Now comes
Jay's punishment.
Jay's punishment.
So we're talking about augmented sixth chords today.
Yes, we are, Matt.
The augmented sixth chord is something that if you're taking music theory classes in college, you'll get to eventually. Everybody always thinks they are super, super complicated, And they're really not. They're really kind of one of the easier concepts you get in the higher theories. But the thing about them is they are sort of a special type of chord in that they're not really chords in the way we've been thinking up to now. So because the way we've been thinking of them up to now, chords are note collections that have a root. Most chords will have a root and a third and a fifth, and maybe a seventh if it's a seventh chord, and they get inverted around and things. With augmented sixth chords, you're not necessarily thinking of them in terms of a root per se. You're thinking of them as just sort of a collection of notes that move in a particular way, right? And that's what makes them kind of unique. And they are very, very chromatic.
Yes.
We think of them as chords of predominant function. So they all tend to move to 5.
Right.
And the reason they all move to 5 is because all the augmented sixth chords have some scale degrees in common, right? They will have a flat 6, scale degree flat 6. So let's just be in D major for a minute.
Okay.
Right? So D major. So if I'm playing an augmented sixth chord in D major, they will all have a flat 6. You hear how chromatic that is.
Yeah.
Right?
That is not a part of D major.
Right. And they will all have a sharp 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is mainly the tie that binds the 3 different chords.
Yes. And they will also have a tonic.
Okay.
And this doesn't even sound like our tonic anymore, but it is. I remember D major. So flat 6, sharp 4, and tonic. Now, what's going on with this flat 6 and sharp 4 is that they are moving to 5. So flat 6 is a tendency tone moving down to 5, right? And sharp 4 also a tendency tone moving up to 5.
That went exactly where I thought it was going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Huh.
Fun stuff, huh?
Yeah, it definitely tonicized tonicized that 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we consider them chords of predominant function.
Yeah.
These things started showing up around the 19th century, and they got the different versions got national monikers associated with them.
Yeah.
For reasons that are murky and unclear. Presumably they were favored in the types were favored in the nations that they're named for, although you could also make the argument that they were just sort of stylistically associated with those. But anyway, the 3 big augmented sixth chords that you see a lot are the Italian augmented sixth chord, the French augmented sixth chord, and the German augmented sixth chord.
Right.
So they will all have those 3 notes in common. They will all have scale degree flat 6.
Okay.
They will all have scale degree sharp 4. And they will all have scale degree 1. And what makes it Italian, French, or German is that 4th note.
Okay. Now, before we move on real quick, I do want to say one thing, because if you can see by the title of the podcast, it is spelled augmented 6. Augmented,
Sixth.
the Arabic number.
Yeah.
Not the Roman numeral.
Right, yeah.
So
augmented 6th.
Let's talk about that 6 real quick. Where does that come from exactly?
Well, like all superscripts when you're analyzing theory, the 6th comes from, and the reason we call it augmented 6 comes from the interval of an augmented 6 that is between flat 6 and sharp 4.
Yes, okay, yes.
So if we stay in the key of D major, for example, those actual notes are playing are B flat, scale degree flat 6, and scale degree sharp 4, which is G sharp.
Right.
So that is the interval of an augmented 6, right? B flat to G is a major 6. G is in the key of B flat, ergo it is a major 6. And we have made that 1/2 step bigger by making G sharp. So that is the augmented 6 interval that we're talking about.
So what happens when someone says, but Dr. Phillips, the augmented 6 is just the inharmonic equivalent of a minor 7 interval?
It is indeed, and I say, very astute young grasshopper.
Hey.
We will talk about that. We can actually, and this may be the next podcast, but we can actually utilize that enharmonic equivalency to our advantage very, very well, because it is just a minor seventh. The thing is, it is not going to, at least for now, it is not going to move the way the interval of a minor seventh would. So it's not going to act like a dominant seven where that seventh moves down a half step like it was, a 4/3 suspension or something, because it is sort of in the wrong place for that.
Yeah.
It is instead moving up.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, can you make a little foreshadowing?
Uh-oh.
Can you make a dominant seven, a minor seventh with a dominant seven chord out of this? Yeah, I mean, you absolutely you can, and that's probably going to feel like it wants to go, somewhere like that, right?
But that's not the D major, is it?
No.
Sorry, or an A or the 5 of D.
No, it's not the 5 of D at all. It's the 5/7 of something else entirely, and we will discuss that as we have. For now, we call it an augmented 6 to distinguish it from that minor 7, and to say, and to sort of denote by way of just moniker that it's going to do this moving out to 5 thing.
Yes.
Yeah, which is what the augmented 6 chords are famous for doing.
So if you're looking at this chord, you can see it as, if you're just looking at it without any other reference, this chord all by itself on one measure.
Yes.
You could easily reinterpret it in a couple of different ways. What determines...
it would be easier to reinterpret it if you respell some accidentals.
Yes, and if you pay note to what happens before and after it.
Right.
Kind of in reference to the progression. So
Very
cool.
But, these things really aren't super hard to spot on paper because they involve a lot of accidentals and specific accidentals.
Yeah.
Anytime you see flat 6 and sharp 4 together in a chord, think augmented 6 chord.
Think augmented 6.
Because, it's probably what you're looking at.
And this is one of those occasions where you might actually run into this double sharp or double flat.
You could.
Right?
Yeah, depending on what key you're in. Yeah, you could definitely run into some weird stuff.
So look for many weird accidentals.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Weird accidentals is always a good indication that something strange has happened. But yeah. So that 1 will go down to scale degree 7, which we know is a chord tone in the 5 chord. Right? And the other 2 will do their moving to 5 thing. So the flat 6 down here in the bass. And the flat 6 is most commonly in the bass. So you'll see it where it's not, but generally the flat 6 is in the bass voice. And that'll move down to scale degree 5. While the sharp 4 moves up to scale degree 5. So, and then from there,
I feel like you have to make a decision when you're doing this because you're running from a triad, which is a very strange situation in the first place.
Yes.
Right? Yep. To someone new in theory, this isn't even a chord. This is just weird. But then you go to a 5 chord, which you might have to, and then okay, so one member of this triad resolves to the 5.
Yes.
Another member of this triad resolves to the 5. So where does that leave us in terms of voice leading? I guess we'll get into that, but this is one concern
we
that I
can
have
get into
right
that.
off.
With the Italian augmented 6, often that root is doubled. So in this particular example I'm using here, I'm actually considering this 2 voices doubled at the unison.
Yeah.
So like 2 voices on the same D note, same scale degree 1. One will move down to C sharp, and then one will move up to E. So we have the kind of thing going on in the inner voices, and that sort of makes a complete chord. So, right?
It did sound full.
Yeah. When you get that E in there, it sounds full. If I played it just as triads, just in a 3 voice texture, it's a little more empty. It's a little cleaner. But so yeah, you'll see that done. In other 4-part textures, you can definitely see that note doubled, or in octave, so octave apart. So if you saw Italian augmented 6 in a choral work or something, you could have. And that sounded good in full.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a dissonant enough chord that it'll add some oomph, right? Some crunch.
And that's kind of the approach I took in the bumper music as well. I started those a good octave apart, so
yeah,
it would help me for the layer.
Yeah, totally legitimate.
Yeah.
So you'll often see 2 roots in Italian, but the idea is the Italian has a tonic.
Yeah.
Has an additional tonic if you're thinking in 4 voices.
Yeah, the hero of this being the sharp 4 and the flat 6.
Right, that's going to always be there.
Yeah.
Other augmented 6 chords will have the sharp 4, the flat 6, we'll have the tonic, and we'll also have scale degree 2.
Uh-oh.
So.
Whoa. Hey. Very nice.
And we call that a French augmented 6.
We talked about this earlier, Matt, and it really, you said, it just sounds Frenchy.
It just sounds kind of Frenchy. Yeah. And and I think you said it sounds kind of whole tony.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is also probably why it sounds Frenchy to me. And
when you think of Debussy and
yeah.
Sautier.
Yeah, I don't know if this was actually used by French composers or if like German composers just thought it sounded French, or I have no idea. Somebody that can educate me on that, I'd be happy to hear that. But the French augmented 6 has, instead of 2 tonics, we'll have a scale degree 1 and a scale degree 2. Yeah. And as always, flat 6 will move down to 5.
Mm-hmm.
Sharp 4 will move up to 5.
Yes.
The tonic will usually go down to 7, and that scale degree 2 can just stay right where it is. Because it's already a chord tone in the 5 chord.
Right.
All right, so oops. There we go.
To me, so far, this sounds a little more tightly wound than the Italian augmented 6.
Yeah, it's a little more dissonant.
Yeah.
It's got that major second in there.
And dissonant, but also it's got that still. It's got based on that major second interval thing happening in two different places, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. It's just, it has that whole tone kind of disorienting.
Yep.
Kind of feel.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of a wash of washing away the actual tonality and direction a little bit.
Absolutely.
However, temporarily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then the other big one, and probably the most often used and the most important, is the one that has scale degree sharp 4, scale degree flat 6, scale degree 1, and scale degree flat 3. And this is totally a 5/7 chord.
That sounds familiar, yeah.
Yeah, but we don't call it a 5/7 chord because it's not moving that way. This is still a chord of predominant function, remember? And so as a chord of predominant function, it's going to move to the 5 chord. So flat 6 down to 5, sharp 4 up to 5, 1 and flat 3 down to 7 and 2 respectively. Yeah.
The 7 being the third of the 5 chord.
Yes.
The 2 being the...
Yes. The 2 being the 5th of the 5 chord.
Yes.
The 7 being the 3rd of the 5 chord, and the 2 being the 5th of the 5 chord, and
It starts to get kind of hard to keep up with.
It starts to keep... Yes, it does.
But I am happy that we're using more scale degrees. It helps me to kind of make sense of it a bit better.
Yeah,
Just talk about the scale degrees.
I've heard people try to call these like call the French flat or a 5 flat 5 of 2 moving to or something moving to 5, and it just makes zero sense to me anyway. to me, what the most logical way to think about these is in terms of counterpoint.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. It's counterpoint. It's these highly chromatic notes that have very strong tendencies to move in particular ways. And we're just kind of creating a chord out of those.
Yeah.
A confluence out of those.
It's like it's not one chord after the other, like we were saying. It's kind
Right.
of a river flowing and eddying over rocks, passing and changing.
Yeah.
It's all kind of a flow, a flux.
Yeah, right, yeah. And with, speaking of counterpoint, a good thing to keep in mind with the German augmented sixth, this is the one with the flat 3. This causes a parallel fifth between flat 3 resolving to 2 and flat 6 resolving to 5.
Yeah.
Right, so it causes a parallel fifth right there, which is a bit of an issue, right?
To many.
To many, to some.
These days, less and less. Maybe?
Less and less every day, yeah. But we often get around that by creating cadential motion. You remember what cadential motion is, right?
Yes. Shall I review that real quick?
Let's do.
Okay, so a cadential motion occurs when, before you move from 5 to 1, this is set up by a 1 chord before that 5 chord, which is actually in second inversion. So you almost feel like you're hearing 2 chords acting as one function. It almost sounds like they're both working as a 5 chord, right?
Yeah.
But what else? What did I miss?
That's pretty good.
That's pretty much it.
Pretty good, yeah. So
A 1-6-4 chord.
Yeah, on paper it's a 1-6-4 to 5-7, but they're all acting like 5. So it's really a 5 chord with 2 suspensions on it. But in the context of a German augmented 6 chord, when we have this little thing, we might just instead of which creates that parallel fifth, we might just move flat 3 up to sharp 3, or flat 3 up to major, the scale degree 3.
Natural.
Yeah, in major. In minor, it would stay where it is.
Yeah.
But in major, we can just do that and leave the tonic where it is for a minute.
So we still held the German augmented chord.
Yeah.
But by the act of moving to the next thing where we changed that F to F sharp.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's when this 1-6-4 chord occurred.
Right. So, German augmented 6 chord, moving to cadential motion, 1-6-4, 5-7, 1.
Yeah. That bass didn't do a lot of moving around.
No, it really didn't.
6-4 chord. Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and like all chromaticism, the idea behind this is to create some really cool melodic lines, right? And it can do some really cool stuff. Like for example, real quickly, I can just play so this is 1, 1, 4, French augmented 6.
Oh.
5.
Oui. Merci.
Yeah, so that bass line,
yeah.
And then that middle line, that alto line, so 1. Pretty nice, huh?
Very singable.
Yeah, very singable.
Which is one of those advantages to proper voice leading, right?
Indeed, yeah. And what proper voice leading is all about, keeping everything and then of course the soprano line. Going up chromatically. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
But it starts off with that sharp 4.
Yeah.
Moving up.
Well, I started that time with scale degree 3 and 1, so 1,
Okay.
Scale degree 3, 4, and then sharp 4.
There is our augmented moment.
Yeah,
Okay.
5.
Almost had a little bit of leading tone confusion there for a second there myself.
And we've talked about sharp 4 in other contexts before too. I mean, it's the third in a 5 chord.
Yes.
It has that real strong pull towards the 5.
It's the
Always.
red-headed leading tone.
Redheaded stepchild leading tone.
tone.
Yeah, and flat 6 also we have talked about in other contexts, like the Phrygian half cadence, for example. Really wanting to move down into that 5.
And for the record, I love redheads. I married one, so don't write.
No hate mail, please.
From redhead people. Notice I used the politically correct way to say that too.
Yes, and I'm related to redheaded people, so there you go.
Fine folks.
Yeah, indeed. So there you go. So those are the 3 primary augmented 6 chords.
Mm-hmm.
And you can make they exist in major or minor.
That was my next question.
Yes, indeed.
Would you like to hear it?
Yes.
Or
Yeah, you can go ahead and ask. It's probably more fun if you just ask.
I know I interrupted you,
It's okay.
but you were probably about to say this anyways. But here we go.
Okay.
Because so far I was able to relate everything that I've learned to the major key.
Right.
But if we're in the minor key, for example, the theme music is in D minor, and I'm glad we've been using D major, so we can actually kind of distinguish the two. Are there any changes? Is there any other than the flat 6 being normal to the key?
Yeah, so they definitely these chords definitely exist in minor, but a couple of these notes are going to already be diatonic, like you say, the flat 6 already in a minor key. It's already just scale degree 6 in a minor key.
Yeah.
So you don't have to change anything. You don't have to add an accidental for that. In the German augmented 6, scale degree flat 3, obviously already in a minor key.
Yes.
It's just scale degree 3 in a minor key. So the thing is, you don't have to throw in those accidentals to make those chords, which can make it maybe harder to spot. If you're a theorist analyzing some Schubert or something and you come across one of these, maybe tougher to spot for that reason. But in terms of sound, it doesn't change anything, and they definitely still exist.
Perfect.
So I could definitely do something like.
Hey, and on that note, which by the way, that was very pretty, I do want to say.
Coming right off the top of my head with that one.
But right off the top of my head, I heard in a minor key a borrowed, a proper dominant 5 chord.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So we heard, what was that, 1? 5, 6. And then I think I probably did 6.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is that augmented?
No. That's just a 6 chord, but then when I did this sucker,
okay,
that's a French augmented 6.
Yeah.
And then cadential motion. And being that I did cadential motion, I probably should have done a German augmented 6 just for fun, just because it would have created a problem that I then smartly solved. For what that's worth.
It's puzzle pieces.
Yeah. So, but 1, 5, 6, 6, German augmented 6, 1, 6, 4, 5, 7, and 1.
All right.
Yeah.
Very cool. One more question about the minor key then.
Yes.
Because when I did my bumper music, I was D minor. I went to my crazy little French, initially my Italian augmented chord.
Yeah.
But instead of going to minor 5, which is diatonic to a minor key,
yes,
I went to the
major 5.
Major 5.
Yeah. Which is a common alteration.
Is that more accepted or more common? You said, or
yeah, I would think in classical music that would be more more appropriate. So let's just compare those two.
Oh, great. Yeah.
So
Minor 1.
Minor 1. Let's do something different. Let's go to 4.
Okay.
And then you said Italian augmented 6.
Yes, please.
So we're going to do, and then this is our note that we're going to bring down to the C sharp. So, and whereas our doubled root down here went up to E, and then that went. Something like that. So that is that. And then so to do the same thing again, 1, 4, and our Italian augmented 6. And this time we're going to go to minor 5. It's just got that sort of lilting, lyrical, almost Irish ballad minor 5 feel to it.
I think I like it better. That might be the guy that's played.
It might be the redheadedness in you.
That's played in an Irish band for the past 2 decades.
Yeah. Let's do that again, just for the fun of it.
Absolutely.
So 1, 4. What was I doing? 1, 4, and Italian augmented 6, and then minor 5. Minor 5. Yeah, so.
If you hadn't gone back to that 1, I would have thought we were in a different key for a second there.
Yeah. It almost tonicizes that A minor with that strong. It's almost like you played a 5 of A minor, but with a couple of wrong notes or something.
Yeah. You're not it's like you were building up tension, and then it was released a little too.
A little too early.
Yeah.
Yeah. The crux of the augmented 6 chords is that those tendency tones are themselves moving to tendency tones, sort of. You know. So you're sort of, you've always got these tendency tones, so you're always being pushed forward. This is why the composers of the Romantic era liked it so much.
Yeah.
You know?
It's got a winding up effect, like getting tighter and tighter.
One last thing I would like to hear is if we did the same progression. So 1, 4, and then this time let's do a German augmented. German augmented 6 to 1, 6, 4. 5, 7, 1. You know, a little crunchier than that Italian. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or even 1. 4. Whoops. 1, 4. French augmented 6. Let's do. There we go. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, I like that.
Okay, and in my humble opinion, in order of crunchiness, Italian,
yes,
German, then French. In my opinion.
Really, huh? Yeah,
in my opinion,
it is funny that technically the German is supposed to be more dissonant, but I think the dominant 7-ness of it is something that our ears tend to accept.
I think so, and also if you kind of from root to 7th, if you line out those chords, they're still spread out fairly apart.
Yeah.
Where within the French augmented chord, there's two very close.
Two very close, yeah.
Intervals.
And a lot of that is how I'm playing it. I mean, you know, you can do it. You can do those 2 notes that way. You know, in the and that totally works.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah. And just think if you wanted to add chords like this in with other chords that we know to be chromatic. You know, like if you want to play 1 borrowed 4, yeah, and then French augmented 6, yeah, and then maybe 7 of 5. If that's a possibility. Something like that.
Ooh.
Yeah. I mean, listen to how chromatic we can get now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Walking
it's getting crazy.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's cool. It's colorful.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, man. Well, one more time, I'm going to sum this up real quick. That we have 3 main types of augmented 6 chords.
Yes.
The Italian, which includes the flat 6, usually in the bass.
Yep.
Sharp 4, normally in an upper voice.
Yeah, normally.
And then the tonic of the scale.
Yes, sometimes doubled, depending on context.
Moving on, we have the French, which includes those 3 notes we just discussed.
Flat 6, sharp 4, and tonic.
Plus the scale degree 2.
Plus scale degree 2.
Okay. And then German, again, the same thing as the Italian. Root, flat 6, sharp 4.
Yes.
But instead we have a flat 3 in there.
Yeah, the minor third above the tonic. Yeah.
Okay. All right, now, you ready for your questions?
Yes.
Some say, Matt,
Oh, yay.
that this is among the stronger of the predominant chords. Do you concur?
Yes.
Yeah?
It is, yes. The tendency tones are so strong, pull so closely, and there's so many of them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that sharp 4 and flat 6 is itself a dissonance.
Yeah.
That is so eager to, you know, if you take an augmented 6 and you invert it, you get a diminished third, right? This is an extremely dissonant interval made up of very strong tendency tones. And yes, it is one of the strongest pulling predominant chords. It is very hard not to hear 5 after that.
Okay. Now, to run this home, and that made perfect sense.
Yeah.
Moving on. What is the difference between the German augmented 6 chord and the borrowed flat 6/7 chord?
And the borrowed flat 6/7 chord. Let me think about this for a minute. So if you have a German augmented 6 chord, you're going to have D, F, and
Within the key of D major, or
yeah, I'm within the key of D major here.
Okay.
You're going to have D, and you're going to have F, and you're going to have G sharp, and you're going to have B flat. And if you had a flat 6/7 chord, so a borrowed flat 6/7 chord would be B flat, D, F, and A flat.
Okay.
So if you call G sharp A flat, then you've legit got a B flat dominant 7 chord, right?
so
Which is really probably going to want to move to like E flat, right? So.
oh my gosh.
Yes.
We were in D major, and now we're in E flat.
We managed to get up a half step away, didn't we?
Yeah.
And this is a little, I don't know if you want to call this spoiler alert or foreshadowing or what to the next podcast, but you are absolutely correct in that inharmonically, a German augmented 6 chord is a dominant 7 chord. We can see with that, with the mere changing of an inharmonic spelling, merely spelling G sharp as A flat, we see that, and we can use this relationship to our advantage. We call it a German augmented 6 when those 2 scale degrees, flat 6 and sharp 4, in this case B flat and G sharp, move outward to the 5 and create a dominant chord. If those 2 B flat and let's not call it G sharp and A flat, then move B flat to E flat, whereas A flat moves down to G, and create and so it functions as a dominant 7 chord. We've done something else.
Yeah.
In fact, what we have done is tonicize a distant key.
Yes.
Yeah, and that is a clever use of the German augmented 6 chord. And again, spoiler alert, we will be talking about that soon.
Okay, very cool, very cool. Makes perfect sense. So again, you can't just look at a chord and say this is what a chord is. Sometimes it's in reference to what is occurring before or after the chord.
Right.
Before you label it the proper
or
identify it correctly.
You know, this is one of the big challenges of theory students, I think, is that your initial impulse is to merely label things for the notes they contain.
Yeah.
And for a very long time, that is pretty easy. You label, C major as C, E, and G. The 5/7 in C major is a G dominant 7 chord, G, B, D, and F. This is, for a long time, so it's sort of easy to slap labels on things. Right. But when you start getting to this point, it's good to start realizing that in slapping those labels and things, you're not merely describing a collection of notes. what you're describing is function.
Yes, exactly.
So the term B flat major triad is a term for a collection of notes. B flat, D, and F. That will always be what a B flat triad is.
Right.
The term 5 does not describe B flat, D, and F.
Nope.
Does not even describe B flat, D, and F in the key of B flat necessarily. The term 5 describes function. Means it is pulling towards the tonic of the key.
Right.
The term German augmented 6 describes function. The term 5/7 of 5, or borrowed 6, or any of this stuff, or 7 of 7,
Okay.
what we were describing here is function. So, and to answer your question simply, yes, it matters what comes before and what comes after, because what you're talking about here is how that thing you're looking at fits in with what came before and what happened. That's what you're really describing when you do a harmonic analysis.
Okay. Very good. And speaking of harmonic analysis, and somehow you know how I like to make up my own stuff, I have a quick question, and we don't want to spend too much time on this, just a quick, funny little question here.
I love these.
Is this chord kind of a weird chromatic 1/6/4 chord? And it has the tonic in it, right?
Yes.
The 5 is in the bass, which often occurs.
Yes.
As far as the inversion.
Yes.
Is considered.
Yeah.
And it often moves to the 1/6/4 chord or a 5 chord. So
could you consider this a 1/6/4 with a sharp?
Oh, weird 1/6/4.
Like a 1 sharp 5 flat 3, or a 1 sharp 5 sus2, or just a 1 sharp 5 sharp 3. Could you consider it a 1? My knee-jerk answer is actually going to be no. And I'm going to defend that no by referring us back to function. When we play that 1/6/4 in context of a cadential motion, we really ought not call it 1/6/4, even though it has those notes, right? Because it functions as a 5 chord. That is a 5 with a 6/5 and a 4/3 suspension above it. So it's really 5/6/4 to 5/3.
Yeah.
For that reason, we cannot call an augmented 6 chord a weird 1/6/4 chord, because it is not functioning as a dominant chord. It does not have dominant function.
Aha.
It has predominant function.
Okay.
And you can say, well, does it have a dominant function of a dominant chord? And I would say yes, and we call that predominant function. Right?
Very much.
So
makes sense. So check that one off the
yeah. So that is my highly considered defense of my argument that no, you cannot call it like a weird 1/6/4 chord, even though it does have the tonic in it. That tonic is there because it's mainly because it's consonant both with flat 6 and sharp 4 in weird ways, right? It's a major third above flat 6, and it's what is it? It's a tritone above sharp 4, so not that, but. But it's going to create that tendency tone with sharp 4.
Well, I don't think I have the military prowess to retort to that defense. So we'll just leave it at that. Okay, now knowing what we know about the augmented 6 chords,
yes,
we're going to listen to the intro music or the bumper music here.
Okay.
And because we're actually yapping during a lot of that. So.
Yeah, okay.
The first time you're going to hear, we're going to be in D minor. It's going to vamp in D minor for a measure or two. And that first weird chord you hear is going to be an Italian augmented 6 chord.
Okay.
Moving to 5, and then to 1, and then to 7, and then back to the Italian augmented 6 chord, and then to 5, back to 1.
All right.
Second time around, it'll be French.
Okay.
Third time around, it'll be German.
All right.
You're going to hear an upright bass. That is always going to do the flat 6 to 1. Flat 6 to 5.
Yeah.
You're going to hear an organ playing a higher part. That one is always going to hold the sharp 4 moving to 5.
Yes.
So the middle voices are where you really need to pay attention. The accompanying guitar, there's going to be a finger picking thing. The higher note of this finger picking pattern is going to be based on the augmented or the Italian the first time around, which is the root, the French major second time around, and then the German, which will be the flat third time around. And likewise, the piano pattern in the melody on the downbeat is going to be Italian, French, and then German.
Okay.
So let's give it a listen, okay?
All right.
Here we go. Untitled Soundscape 309. D minor.
Yes.
Again.
So this is 1.
Now, Italian. To 5, 1,
Very nice.
7. Italian, 5, 1. Now French.
Yeah, listen to those inner voices.
Again, French to 5 to 1. Finally, German. And again, German.
It's a little more musical, the German. Yeah, very, very nice. And you can see how some of these things are not just abstract classical music stuff, right? I mean, you can see how in your everyday songwriting, knowing these dissonances can be really helpful to create all sorts of different moods that you wouldn't necessarily have been able to get at just with diatonic chords and stuff, right?
Exactly, because I think I'd done similar progressions in the past, but now being challenged with what to do with this strange creature of a chord, I was actually able to make what I thought was good music with it.
Sounded great.
Yeah.
All right.
So we'll give it one more listen and keep those things in mind as you listen, and then we'll be right back. So there you have it.
Yes.
So quick recap.
The augmented 6 chord, a chord that is more of a collection of notes than anything with a root, third, or fifth. All augmented 6 chords will have a flat 6 that is most commonly in the lowest voice, in the bass voice. They will all have a sharp scale degree 4, most commonly in one of the upper voices.
Right.
And they will all have scale degree 1, the tonic note. The Italian augmented 6 will have another one, another tonic. It doubled or just a 3-note chord.
Triad.
Right. The French augmented 6 will have scale degrees flat 6, sharp 4, 1, and 2. And the German augmented 6 will have scale degrees flat 6, sharp 4, 1, and flat 3. In minor modes, the flat 6s are already in the key. They're already diatonic.
Right.
The flat 3 in the German augmented 6 is already going to be diatonic in the minor mode. In major modes, they require accidentals, but that's not a big deal. Right? All of these chords are chords of predominant function, meaning they move to 5.
Yes.
And in the case of the German augmented 6 chord, they usually move to 5 via cadential motion so as to avoid parallel fifths.
Yes. Not a lot of people dig those. Parallel fifths.
Some people don't dig them.
Some people. Less and less these days.
Yeah.
Now, that's great, man. That's pretty much. Oh, and also just to say that if you're looking at a score, if you're in a major key, it might be more apparent where these.
It might be a little more apparent because they're more accidentals. But if you're looking for them in scores, flat 6 and sharp 4 should be. Sharp 4 is almost always going to require
an accidental,
I would think. And if that's in combination with scale degree flat 6, that should be a real flag that you're looking at one of those chords.
Okay, very good. All right, now before we close it out, one more thing.
Yes.
Do you remember when Ray Parker said, maybe give us some kind of a challenge?
Yes.
A songwriting challenge?
Songwriting challenge.
How do you want to do this? What do you think?
Well, let's see if people can write some songs with some augmented 6 chords in them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then as far as the theme, do we give them a theme or do we just say, use your augmented 6 chords and see what you come up with?
Let's say use your augmented 6 chords.
Yeah.
1 point for an Italian, 2 points for a French, and 3 points for a German.
Very good. Very good. Points not really having any kind of
points
monetary.
meaning absolutely nothing whatsoever, but they'll make you feel good.
Yeah.
And yeah, see if we can get some songs and chord progressions and stuff written with augmented 6 chords. I can't wait to hear this.
A point might be that we play it on the listener compositions episode.
Yeah, there you go.
When we have it. And
There
also,
you go.
we have another listener, Nancy Mitchell, who's talking about songwriting as well. And we're going to address some of her questions
Yes.
and desires in a future episode regarding songwriting and our outreach to our songwriters.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
All right.
Now you know 3 new chords. Play them. Use them. Send us the results. We'd love to hear from you at info@musicstudent101.com.